In this video, we'll look at three-point lighting in 3ds Max. Three-point lighting is a standard or departure point for theatrical lighting, consisting of, as the name suggests, three lights: a key light, a fill light, and a rim or backlight. I'll start out using target lights, and I'm going to work with photometrics in this case, Max's default lights. I'll add on the photographic exposure control as it suggests. In a top view, I'll make the first light coming from front right on the character, and check in a front view to make sure I raise it up. Typically lights aim down at characters, diagonally down or straight down. Aiming up is a little awkward looking. We aim lights up at folks when we want them to look radically different. That's why people aim lights up at themselves telling campfire stories, so they look scary and different from usual. I'll take this light and change to the modifier panel, emitting the shape from a point, but changing the light itself over to a spot under the light distribution type. I'll leave the hotspot and fall off where they are for the moment, as is the intensity. For this one, I can turn on ray trace shadows, and later I can deal with area shadows. What I really care about is how does the character look. I'll go into a perspective, select the character, and zoom in, and see how it goes. When I hit render, I can see that the lighting is blown out, as the photographic exposure is too open. It's letting too much light in. I'll adjust that. I can also see that there's areas on the character, such as under his chin, that are far too dark. To adjust the exposure, I'll press 8 and scroll down to the exposure control. I'm going to run my exposure value at 5 and see if that helps a little bit. I can use the render preview, and I can also use the realistic view in the viewport, clicking on the viewport label, shaded plus edged faces, and changing to realistic. Under realistic, there's lighting and shadows, and I'll illuminate with the scene lights, making sure that I have shadows and ambient occlusion on, and also under scene lights control, making sure that it auto displays the selected lights. It will take the photographic exposure into account. I'll hit F4 to turn off the wireframe, and I can see in this scene that although he's nicely lit from one side, he's very black on the other, so he needs a second light. In three-point lighting, that's our fill light. I'll take my existing light and hold Shift and clone it, moving it over to the left. I'll make it a copy and reduce the intensity by half. The typical rule for three-point lighting is that the key light, if it's a strength of 1, has the fill light at a strength of 1/2. So I'll reduce down the candle power. I'll go test this image again. One of the other things I like to do with three-point lighting is make the lights asymmetric. I'll pull the fill light down so it's not the same angle of light across him from two different directions. In a test render, looks pretty good. I've got shadows and he's grounded under his chin. Whether I have one or two shadows is a rendering option I can explore. But he's nicely generally lit. Now for the rim light or backlight. A lot of times we want a light behind the subject to rim light them or cast a long specular highlight along their contour, picking them out from the background in the view. I'll go to my top view, select my light, and clone it, holding Shift to clone and spin the light around. I'll go in a left view and pull this light down. The rim light placement may vary depending on where the camera is, but I'll aim it from behind. Now when I go in the perspective, and I may need to adjust the intensity on the rim light as well, I'll see my character has highlights on the edges. I'll pull it over just a little bit and see if that works. He's got clean highlights along the edges, and he really stands out from the background. Now I can right-click and turn off shadows on this light. That way it avoids that forward shadow. I could do the same on the other, but this is my standard three-point lighting: a key, a fill, and a rim, where the fill is half of the intensity of the key, and the lighting is asymmetric, grounding the character and lighting up areas, leaving almost nothing in exact blackness. The way to think of it is that three-point lighting is a departure point. we use it, it is useful to have and your knowledge, but many occasions will come up where you need to vary from 3-point. You'll bring in your practical lighting or other lights in your fill and have a rim light or a key light just to pop a character off the background. We'll explore this in future lessons.